Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 173.
Hey everyone, the following is a recording of the Comics and Metal panel that I was able to put together and moderate for C2E2 2026. Thanks again to my panelists and all the attendees for making it such a fun time. I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully I get to do it again next year.
Time to start. Hello everybody, thank you for coming to the first ever Comics and Metal panel here at C2E2. My name is John Cardenas. I'm the host of the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, along with being an artist and comic creator myself. I am pleased to introduce the panel we have today, full of amazing creators, love all kinds of different metal and all kinds of different comics. One thing I can talk about on my show is the fact that comics and metal are just two immensely huge mediums with tons of depth that you could do so much with each one, and where the overlap to me is just, in everything. You could ask 100 different people, what's your favorite metal band? What's your favorite comic? And chances are you get 100 different answers, and probably 75 of them you've never heard of before in your life. So I'm pleased to have our panel answer a few questions. Hopefully we get some time to answer some questions from all of you. So first, from my farthest left, we have the owner and co-owner and writer of Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, Mr. Patrick Brower. Comic creator, artist, and all-around awesome dude, Mr. Jimmy Kirich. Comic writer and amazing resource of recommendations for me personally in terms of this amazing music, Mark Bouchard. One of my oldest friends in comics and one of the most talented people I know, the artist, Mr. Tyrell Cannon. And someone whose metal knowledge and love of the medium is just completely dwarfs anyone else I've ever met in my entire life. And that is the amazing writer, Mr. Marcus Nelson. So my first question for the panel, and we can start from far left with Patrick, is what were the first comics and metal album that you read and listened to and you're like, well, this is my life now?
I'm an old man. So my pick, what really got me into, forgive the use of the word metal in this circumstance, but it was Kiss and it was Love Gun. I remember buying that when it was new, and already a lifelong comic fan at that point in my life. My older brother was reading comics before I was born, so comics were something I had always growing up. And these were real-life superheroes, so it looked, and they were making the hardest music that my 8-year-old self had ever heard. So to me, that was just a match made in heaven. Comics and Kiss go together. Now, granted, my tastes have evolved, but there's no denying the impact that band, that look, and that sound had on my life. Also, they're all giant pieces of shit, but I love their music.
For me, I would say musically, the album Scream Bloody Gore by Death was probably my real entry point into kind of more extreme death metal. I'm a big death metal guy.
Came in real soft.
Yeah, right. Well, I loved growing up, Iron Maiden, Megadeth. I love all that stuff still to this day. But that album kind of turned me into a lifer, I would say. And from there, I found bands like Autopsy and Obituary and that kind of stuff as well. And so, I gotta hand it off to Guar as well. I loved Guar when I was a kid. I was a huge Power Rangers fan, and so when I saw them, I was like, oh, this is the bad guys from Power Rangers. Kind of fan. And then in terms of comics that kind of got me into it, I guess being a comic artist, Berserk was one of my favorite things ever. When I was a teenager, the way that I found out about Berserk wasn't through the comics or the anime. They released the Berserk video game on the Sega Dreamcast in 2000 or something like that. And I got it for $5 at Circuit City when Circuit City was still around. So it gives me a point reference. And so I able to dive into that whole entire world. And so I feel like I've been like gently trying to rip off Berserk my entire life, like ever since then. So yeah, those are the two things for me.
So I come with this from like hardcore and like hardcore punk. So my entry was like the Gloss demo, and then Gulch and Penetrable Cerebral Fortress, and Big Kiss Goodnight by Trapped Under Ice. And for comics, the ones that like made me want to make comics, you know, were like Sweet Tooth in college was great. And then I read Sacred Heart by Liz Suburbia, which is like one of the best depictions of music in comics ever. And that's some like real punk rock comics. And that book rules.
Wow. Well, so Don's gonna love this. The first metal album I bought, which is the third album I ever bought with my own money, was Black Album, Metallica. I think that, you know, at that time that was like the best thing ever for me. And comics-wise, it was X-Men #5 and X-Force #9 were the first comics I bought at the comic book store. Jim Lee, Bob Liefeld, and it was just like, I mean, something in my brain just like, I have to do this. Like this is the thing. And then I feel like then I had these moments later on. Those were sort of initial contacts, but when metal and comics just expanded for me. And one was, for comics, it was Anders Nilsson's Big Questions. That one just like blew my mind and made me think about comics different. And then for metal, when I discovered Sleep's Dope Smoker, that was the end for me. Like, this is life, you know? And it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, for me, the comic that really made me fall in love was Batman 431. So, because I'm old now, just like Patrick. But when I was a kid, my mom took me to the mall, and we were probably shopping for school clothes or whatever, and there was a bookstore there, and I saw this cover to Batman 431 in the window. And if you've ever seen it, it's Batman hanging upside down from a tree. There's this moon, this giant full moon in the background with bats everywhere. He's silhouetted, and it just, as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to have that comic book. And it's by the great George Pratt, so he did a lot of comic books in the 90s and 2000s, painted covers and interiors, illustrations. And then when I opened it and read it, it was by Jim Owsley, who you may know better as Christopher Priest, who did like the best Black Panther run ever in comics. And from then on, I was hooked. He was fighting ninjas in it. Of course, I was like 13. That was perfect for me.
Marcus, I actually redid that cover and hung it up in my house in college. Yeah, because that's how good that cover is.
Yeah, I framed the cover, the comic book that I bought, and what I do to honor comics now is that anytime I find Batman 431 in the wild in a comic shop or a con like this, I buy it, and I have like 25 copies.
Sleep on them, just put them on your bed and roll around.
Well, I hope to be burned when I'm dead, like a Viking funeral pyre, all Batman 431. Yeah, somebody dressed up as Green Arrow.
All right, if anybody else comes across that book, we need a lot of them for his funeral, so start buying them. Thank you.
And I'll look for it here. I haven't yet, but I will. I'll probably find it. And then for metal, so I grew up in Syracuse, New York. I live in Chicago now, but I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and that was like a hotbed for hardcore, post-hardcore. So that's how I really got into heavy music with Earth Crisis, Snap, things like that, right? Yeah. And metallic hardcore when it was really good. Actually, it's starting to come back now too, because there's a lot of bands that are doing metallic hardcore like they did in the old school days. And then in the late 90s is when I really started to get into metal, and the band that got me into metal was Incantation and Mortal Throne of the Nazarene, which is amazing. So that's my favorite death metal band, still to this day. They don't have a bad album. It goes from like really good to classic. They've influenced so many bands over the years.
Awesome. That's a really great answer. I can't fault Tyrell for it because I also have the most basic ass answer of X-Men and Metallica. Like those were they were the gateway drug in the 90s. commonalities for metal and comic fans, I think. As an adult, I have different answers. And we all have those phases in our life where we kind of drift away from the types of stuff we're listening to or reading, and then circling back. As an adult, I can say, Gojira and We 3 are like the tops. And even now, as I'm, again, one of the old fellow olds up here, there's still new bands and new comics that just blow me away. And that's, again, one of the things I just love so much about comics and metal. And it's both been around for so long, but we barely scratched the surface with, like, the potential of things here. Being, creators, at one point, Patrick was inker for Marvel, and he's actually come out of retirement one time for me to make a cover of my book upon my request. So my next question.
Out of retirement just means that technology has made the art of the inker unnecessary, and Don threw me a bone by saying, "Yeah, okay, you can do this."
No, it was very important for me because a little bit of backstory. Patrick's shop, Challengers, was very instrumental in me rediscovering my true love of comics and my love of art and becoming an artist who makes comics now, and also a musician, because Patrick and I have also collaborated on some music and still are. And so it was very important for me to have him on this panel and that he could be here. My next question for the panel is, where upon your careers with creation and all that, where have you seen like metal and comics like crossover and collaborate with each other? Where do you feel like that was the strongest connection between the two in your careers? Patrick?
Oh, start that and work down. Go back.
Go far, it's not fun.
For like other comics, just comics in general?
Or just your own comic, your own.
Oh,
where's your love of both mediums kind of coalesce together?
Okay, yeah, well, the comic that definitely has the most metal is my comic By the Horns. It's about a hunter named Elodie whose husband gets trampled by unicorns, and she swears revenge against all the unicorns on the continent. And she can rip off unicorn horns and merge them together to form mystic blades. It's a comic. And
it's an amazing book.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So what we've done a lot of other, so it's a fantasy book, which obviously that's very metal just because it's fantasy, right? But we've done a lot of things like this cover here is illustrated by Luke Oram, and it's a wraparound cover. So Luke Oram does a lot of covers for metal bands, like Wallowing, Sludge, if you know those bands. And I've also done another cover for our hardcover for our Kickstarter. Alex CF, he's in a band called Fall of Ephrathah, which is one of my favorite bands ever. He's also an illustrator. So that was a huge thing for me to get him to draw that cover. And then inside the comic book, we do these, I guess they're like travel maps. So it shows where our characters go to and then what dangers that they have to face in it. And all the places on it are named after metal bands. And then in the second arc, we also named all the places after metal bands, but they're scrambled. So they're anagrams. You have to unscramble them in order to figure out what they are. And then, oh man, I've done so much metal just for this book, it's crazy. So I got a metal band named Arctic Sleep to record 2 songs for this first issue, specifically for By the Horns, and I pressed it on vinyl, and I started a metal label called Skull Fracture Records. And then I also collaborated with Braveborn Meadery. If you know mead, it's a wine made from honey, and it is the most metal drink ever because the Vikings used to drink it. There's a lot of comics that do beers, and those are pretty weak. I believe I'm the only comic that's ever done a mead, and it's like 14% for me. We've done 2 different ones, a regular one and a barrel-aged one, and we also did drinking horns and had hand-carved symbols into it. So, I love metal, and when I did this book, I wanted to do as much metal shit as I could possibly do.
I was not exaggerating when I said Marcus on the person who will appreciate metal most ever I've ever met in my life. So that's amazing. Daryl?
I don't know if I can follow that.
No, one's following that.
Should have gone first.
I know. You've inspired me, though. I want to be the first comic to have my own strain of weed. But I've had a few times where there's been a really direct connection with metal and my work. One is that I did a mini comic which is based on Dope Smoker. So me and a friend, Aaron Pittman, we basically got high and listened to Dope Smoker and drew a comic together. And it's like a sci-fi journey through like a desert thing. It's pretty cool. And then I did a sequel to that is also based on the music of like Sleep and Om and Yob called Ascend. And it's sort of like also got some ancient alien stuff in there as well. And then I had the privilege of doing a cover. My friend Danny Warren Johnson did a book called Murder Falcon. Some of you guys might have checked it out. It's got metal in it. And he did a series of covers that were like inspired by different metal album covers. And I did a Bolt Thrower one, which was really, really fun to do. So.
I really want to listen to High on Fire now.
Oh, yes. So, the first book, big book I did was an anthology I edited and organized called Everything is Going Wrong, Comics on Punk and Mental Illness. I also wrote for the Hard Times around then, so I was able to get Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die to help write a comic with this dude Ryan Ferrier. And we did one based on the song Map Change. So I got to edit that, which was cool as fuck because Every Time I Die rips. And then in the book It Took Luke that me and Bailey Underwood did before selling it to Oni Press, we had to we put in a t-shirt from the band Mannequin Pussy, but a real t-shirt that they had drawn, they sell. So when we sold it to Oni Press, they were like, you gotta take this out, and we were like, well, she doesn't have that ink page anymore, so what do you want? And James Lucas Jones was like, I'll figure it out, and he just hit them up and got them to, we just said special thanks, and they let us keep it in, so yeah.
So I'm an illustrator in addition to doing comic art, and I really kind of cut my teeth as an illustrator doing, merch for metal bands, flyers, that kind of stuff. So there's always been this through line in my work of that. Starting off a lot of times doing local gigs, and then those bands would kind of pick up steam, and then come back to me for other designs and everything. But in my comic work, I deal a lot with fantasy and horror and that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a through line there. But I'd say most directly is my comic Fight Frogs that I have, which is it's my love letter to Ninja Turtles, but more specifically rip-offs of Ninja Turtles. I loved when I was a kid, the Street Sharks and Battletoads. I mean, Fight Frogs, Battletoads, you get the joke. Biker Mice Mars, all that kind of stuff. And so in that, in the first issue, their alarm that they wake up to is an Anthrax song, and then they turn that off, and then they walk over to the record player, and they're like, it's a little too quiet here. They put on a record, and it starts at the same part of that song, and they turn it off. And so their whole thing is being metalhead frogs. They eat hot dogs instead of pizza and that. And so I'd say that's my most directly referential heavy metal influence thing. And aside from just having the vibe, in a lot of my stuff that I do. So
This is 100% the wrong crowd to admit this to, but when I was in college, I got a gig doing a fish t-shirt. No, I don't have an answer to this because as an inker, it's never my property or my story. It's just somebody else's work. So I will listen to metal while I'm working, but it's never really been inspired. The work isn't inspired by the music. The music is just helps me get the work done. Cop-out answer, but a true answer.
Well, Patrick, you have been very influential, and for me, in terms of also metal, because you've had so many great recommendations to me about metal, and just...
Yeah, and you've taken it so much further. Which is not a bad thing, it's just such a level of... now talking to Don about music is like talking to Marcus about music. The difference is Don doesn't always tell me I'm just wrong. But it's all bands
has now become the master.
it's all bands that I've never even heard of for the most part.
Well, I still, if our passions are nothing but just batons we pass to each other to carry further. You know, that's comics and metal. You know.
That's good. That's a good line.
I just thought of it.
Passions are batons to be passed to another. That's really good. Write that down. You're doing the t-shirt.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, again, as an artist, comic creator, musician, you know, and just a general metal fan, I do love seeing that crossover. Whenever there's a band, a comic, or something like that, I am just all for it. I want to check it out. I want to read it. My own comic, Eating the Helsings, is about a band. And, you know, I'm way harder on myself on the actual accurate depiction of instruments and things like that than I am for anybody else. But it is just something that I just love seeing and love doing. So whenever I see that kind of crossover with anything, I'm there. I'm ready to jump in. Jimmy's Fight Frogs, one of my favorite comics about last year. I actually got the second issue this year. And hide it from my kids because they don't know what it is yet. But
you know what's funny? Kids actually love Fight Frogs. Like, there was a dad that bought it, and then he showed it to his son. There's nothing like too serious in terms of cursing, but there's like some shits and asses and stuff. And he was reading it to his kid, and he just took those out. His kid became so obsessed with it. I put fake advertisements in the back of it for action figures, like a Ninja Turtles comic or like just an old comic from them. The kid asked his dad for those toys for Christmas, and he had to bring them to him, but they don't exist. And instead, they carved Fight Frogs pumpkins for like Halloween. So the kids love that comic, I guess.
I'm going to jump on the Fight Frogs train too.
I mean, I got it right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Go check out Jimmy's table if you're here tomorrow or have time after the panel today. It's awesome.
Oh, table L5, and I'm not to like hard sell anybody, but I think I've got like 15 copies of it left.
Right. Wait, it's on there.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, I met Jimmy at K, which is another comic. And I saw Fight Frogs, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this might be the most metal thing I've ever seen. So I met Jimmy, I bought the books and devoured them. And then, I don't know, a couple days later, I contacted him and I said, Jimmy, I need you to draw a variant cover for my first comic, which is called Voracious. And my buddy Jason, who drew the comics right there. And so it's about a chef who travels through time, kills dinosaurs, and serves them at a restaurant in the present. So Jimmy's like, oh, absolutely, I'll draw that. So he drew this like spread, and it's Nate, who is the chef. He's got the chef's hat on. He's got like this bandolier with all these cleavers on it. He's just chucking cleavers into dinosaur heads.
Yeah, he's cutting that head off of a T-Rex in one swipe, and like blood spraying everywhere. And there's just a bunch of dead dinosaurs around with cleavers sticking out of them. Yeah.
So why Fight Frogs? Because that's what led to that cover.
Yeah.
Well, my next question for the panel is that, I explained about why I love seeing these crossover. What is your favorite crossover of comics and metal that you've not created, but you've got to experience and enjoy?
We are definitely playing with the definitions of metal for a lot of my answers, but they just came out with a reprint hardcover fancy version of a graphic novel written by and about Poppy, who is way heavier now than she ever used to be, and it's super fun, but also drawn by Zoe Thorogood, who is definitely one of the artists to watch in today's industry. Too long in the industry to be called up and comer because she's been around for a minute, but this is one of her earlier works. So that was cool. They're redoing that. Again, I gotta say those Marvel Kiss comics from the 70s were a blast. But that's.
I mean, they put the blood in it.
Yeah, they put. Yeah. Yeah, I now have comics that have blood in them. Have somebody's funeral ashes in them. We're gonna burn Marcus on to death. Oh, I'm sorry, after he dies, naturally. Sorry.
I'm not shopping at Challengers anymore.
It's too bad, I got a case of Batman. It's very, basically every metal band has a comic now, either about them or by them. A publisher named C2 does a ton of them. Very varying degrees of quality, I'll just say it that way politely, but it's good to see it involved. Drug Church, anybody fan of Drug Church, the band? That writer, Patrick Inland, writes comics. I'm sorry, that lead singer. He writes comics as well. So I call that a crossover, if you will. So yeah, there's more all the time. The way that you were drinking too.
Oh yeah, that is a quick sip. My favorite is the 80s manga Bastard. I don't know if anybody knows Bastard. That's probably my favorite. It's like very like 80s, like manga fantasy and everything. I think the full title is Bastard, 2 exclamation points, dark metal, dark fantasy or something like that in Japanese. But it's full of just a million like band references and everything. The main character in it is named Dark Schneider. That's a reference to Udo Dirk Schneider, from except his moves are all metal bands. He has a move called Venom, a move called Megadeth, a move called Sodom, I think, or Sodom is like one of the characters. Like it's all like super duper referential. I think Netflix made an adaptation of it within the past like 10 years or something. I didn't check that out. I like the manga and the the old anime and stuff, but that's probably my favorite, I would say. So yeah, check it out. I don't know if it's in print anymore or anything like that either. It is. Okay, right on. Cool.
They still sell it at Barnes & Noble.
Well, there you go. Go to Barnes & Noble.
I think my favorite is like Daniel Warren Johnson did this Riley Gale piece that's like really fucking awesome. I think it was private, like for someone, but he posted it online. Power Trip was a really awesome band. I feel really weird about them playing shows, but yeah.
Rest in peace, Riley.
Seriously, yeah. I went to a Power Trip show with Dan. It was incredible. Pre-Riley's passing, it was a phenomenal show. I'm just going to jump on that wagon too and say if you haven't read Murder Falcon by Dan Warren Johnson, it's pretty awesome. The guy plays music and this giant falcon-headed dude shows up and fights monsters all over the world. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I love Murder Falcon. I'm going to give a shout out to the Beelzebubs too, JP Honan. But the one comic that's the most metal comic ever, and you should all have it, is Prison Pit by Johnny Ryan, Fantagraphics. So it's basically like this wrestler guy who gets dropped on an otherworldly prison planet and he needs to escape it. And he has to fight all these monsters, but it's just insane. He like loses an arm to this spit monster, and then he finds this parasite worm that merges onto his arm, shits into it, like a drug into it, that charges them up so we can fight all the creatures that are on the planet.
It is non-stop violence and gore. You'll love it.
Yeah, it's the most metal thing ever.
Tell everybody what the main character's name is.
The name is Cannibal Fuckface. I win most metal comics. So yeah, you have to have it. I have the hardcover and I have a soft cover at the side of my bed just in case I need some metal to get me to go to sleep. So get that. Cannibal Fuckface. Prison's just
Awesome. Well, I got one more question for the panel. I'd like to open up to the floor if anyone has any questions for the panel, recommendations, anything of the sort. But if the panel can let us know, what's a new album and a new comic right now that you would like everyone to check out?
I just announced this Tuesday the new Armored Saint album is coming at the end of the year. Emotion Factory Reset. I'm very excited for that. To the Bone is the first single they just dropped. Also, there'll be a new Anthrax album by the end of the year. So, I mean, they're not out right now, so it's a little bit off of what you said, but amazing, and I love them. And comic-wise, Wrestle Heist. Wrestle Heist is pretty great if you're a wrestling fan. It's basically about a bunch of disgruntled wrestlers who are going to, it's a heist book. They're going to rob WrestleMania to get back all the money they feel they're owed. It's super fun. It's a fun heist book set in the world of wrestling.
I think, I don't know if I have an album to necessarily recommend, but like I said, I'm a big death metal guy. I mean, I'm wearing a Cyanide shirt. If anybody knows Cyanide, they're like Chicago's like death metal band. So published in the U.S. for the first time in I think about like 15 years. His name's Suhiro Maruo. His book that they just put out is called Beautiful Monsters, or Beautiful Monster, I think. His stuff is incredibly scarce. I bought all of his stuff when it was coming out, but it goes for like a ton of money now. But like that collection was put out by Bubble Zine, I think. I want to get as many eyes on it as possible. He's like Junji Ito if Junji Ito was like a dirty pervert. Like, I've got a ton of like Suhiro Maruo tattoos, and people are always like, "Oh, cool, Junji Ito tattoo." And I have to be like, "Well, no." Yeah, like Junji Ito's kind of like the horrors of the unknown and like the horrors of like, you know, it's almost like cosmic horror. Whereas Suhiro Maruo is way more like the horrors that people do to each other, with a beautiful art style. Not for everybody. It's very, like I said, pervy and violent and gross. I want to get as many eyes on that as possible because I want more of his stuff to like come over here for sure. So yeah.
I'm gonna do I have two albums. They're I Don't Want to See You in Heaven by the Callous Down Boys and Salvation Laughs in the Face of a Grieving Mother by Psycho Frame. Came out last year, both crazy. And if you're into like We Want to Bust a Del to something, Big Ass Truck, they're a hardcore, metal hardcore band, and they just sing about big ass trucks. Like they have one about Gravedigger, they have one about the Killdozer. They have a lot of fucking songs about trucks, man. And I read Pluto for the first time recently, and like it's one of the best comics that's ever been made. So like everybody stop what they're doing and go buy Pluto from Patrick.
I can attest for Big Ass Truck making you hurt yourself at the gym. Thanks to Mark.
I was trying to think of the newest stuff I'm listening to. I'm really into this band, Ancient Death. They have a new album out, Ego Dissolutions. It's real dirty, grindy death metal. It's really, really rad, and it's got some like female vocals on it too. It's really great. And then I wanted to make sure I got it right. There's an artist named Millie St. John who's awesome, and they have a new book out coming out called "And Up They Sprung," and it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but it's very weird and experimental and beautiful stuff. If you're not following Millie St. John, you've got to check her out. Up and comer, I think.
Well, I've just decided I'm going to start a new band called Big Ass Truck.
There's actually already a band called Big Ass Truck. The one I'm talking about is Big Ass Truck, i.e. they're from the Inland Empire. To clarify, there's a jam band called the regular Big Ass Truck.
So Big Ass Semi is coming. The band there's two bands I'm really obsessed with. They just put out albums last Friday. One is Neurosis. They just put out a record. They haven't put out a record in 10 years, and they got the vocalist and guitarist from ISIS, which is one of my favorite post-metal bands. I think it sounds amazing. And the whole internet was like so into it, and it was great to experience that because it's this new Neurosis record, and everybody was kind of focused on that and happy about that. And it was nice to just have a day where there was some bad news, you know. And then the other one is The Silver, and it's Looking Glass Hymnal Blue. And The Silver is a band made up of members from Horrendous and Crip Sermon, if you know those bands. And it's kind of a very romantic black metal. So they sing about like love lost and just things that are not typical metal stuff, but it's very metal, very black metal, but with some vocals over it and just amazing solos. And then I'm going to give one to Jimmy too because he loves death metal. You got to check out Heteropsy. It's a death metal band from Japan, and it's old school death metal, but they do solos like it's a traditional metal band. And I love that. It was one of my favorite bands from last year. Every year I do a top 25 and I put it on my website that has descriptions and links to Bandcamp so you can listen to any of the albums. So go to markuson.com, you're going to get a shit ton of it.
I failed to mention, and it should be no surprise, Mark Sana is also part of a podcast called Metalheads.
The Metalheads podcast, and I'm on another podcast called the Endless Metal Podcast. So we interview bands and talk about albums and spread it.
One more. It's called More Metal or something.
It's called
That one's a cooking podcast.
Well, personally, Personally, I recommend the new Cytosis album, The New Flesh. That's just a ripping album. It's just good old metal. Awesome riffs, great production. And then it's not so much a new comic, but it's one of my favorite comics in the past couple years that just came out and I don't think it's gotten enough love. And that is Mike Norton and Rafer Roberts' The Rock Gods of Jackson, Tennessee. It's a graphic novel that came out, I believe, I'm forgetting the publisher, I think it might be Oni or Dark Horse. And it's
Like 2 years ago?
yeah, it's like the best coming-of-age 80s teen band movie you've never seen with mutant warthogs at the end. It's just an amazing book, and Mike's an amazing creator, and yeah, it's rapidly one of my favorite books of all time. If anyone has any questions, feel free to come up. If not, I have one really dumb question to end the panel for our panelists. So.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Tyrell, can you name that creator again? Millie
St. John. And she's fantastic. Amazing creator, up and coming, makes work unlike anything else that I'm looking at. So it's not necessarily metal, but it's really cool.
All right, then. Well, if you have no questions, I have one final terrible one to ask you all, and that is, it's a would you rather. Would you rather have your favorite metal album's snare drum replaced with a St. Anger snare, or have your favorite comic redrawn by Rob Liefeld? No disses to either. I love both. They all have their place, but they also are very divisive topics. So,
sounds very divisive to either.
I love in my heart for both of them, but
well, I got a preview of this question, so I'm going to go ahead and go because I thought about it. I thought about it some more,
okay.
And I would rather have Rob Liefeld draw my favorite comic just because I think it would be really, really interesting. And fuck that snare, man.
I mean, I want Rob Liefeld to draw Prison Pit. Yeah, I mean,
you think I'm dissing the guy, but then you think about it, you're like, I would like to see that. That would be.
I mean, I love Rob Liefeld. I grew up on that stuff. So
Same. Yeah,
man. No contest.
Really much my bread and butter, for sure.
I'm also going to say Rob Liefeld because I love comics and I love music, but I have music 24 hours a day. My iPod is playing all night when I sleep. I can't have that corrupted. I can close my eyes, but still have music, I don't, you see, Rob Liefeld redraws my favorite comic. I don't have to read it, but I have to listen to music.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine Rob Liefeld's Berserk? That sounds
I'm not doing it.
I think this is a trend that, would it be cool if Rob Liefeld just did this?
I think we all just like Rob
Why
Liefeld.
is Rob Liefeld not on this panel?
Yeah,
I'm also going to say Rob Liefeld. I can't see if that
I didn't say it was a good question.
by the snare. I feel like, I don't know, I listen to a lot of straight edge music, even though I'm not straight edge. Like World of Pleasure, they're this straight edge metallic hardcore band from Calgary, and with that snare would fuck it up so bad. And there's this band called No Cure Straight Edge Fuck You, Die Slow, and they're in Alabama. They would fuck them up so bad.
Don, your answer?
My answer? Oh, I would have Rob Liefeld draw me.
He likes the snare. That's what he doesn't want to say. He likes it.
I do like the snare. I didn't say I'm a good person, but I do like the snare.
I haven't listened to Metallica since, I don't remember. I haven't been metal.
I'm sorry they're not Megadeth, Tyrell. I'm sorry.
Hey, man.
The esteemed career.
Mess with Dave, okay? Above Dave.
I got that new Megadeth album.
Oh, come on.
It's certainly songs. So. Okay, before this evolves any further, thank you all so much for coming and checking out the panel. Really appreciate you spending time.
Tell everybody where we can find everybody.
I was going to say, if everyone can let everybody know where we can find each other. I have some flyers here with people's bios and websites. I want to come grab one. And if anyone here is, still at the show and at Art's Alley table or anything, let us know.
I just wanted to say thanks to Don for putting this all together. It's up here. It's been a pleasure watching you evolve. When I first met you, you were just a bassist. I say just a bassist.
No, just.
But now you're I own Challengers Comics Conversations in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago, challengerscomics.com.
Awesome store.
My website is ggillustration.com. You can find me on Instagram at jimmyg_illustration. I'm at table L5. I just had a new comic come out at the beginning of this month. A series called Living Walls. It's like a horror comic. The third issue came out, the beginning of this month and of last month. And I've got issues of that there, so come check it out.
You can find me online at Barton Bouchard. It's just my name with initial slip. Also, I'm running a Kickstarter for my webcomic. It's called Business as Usual. It's basically like Death Race 2000 or Idiocracy, but it's about a bunch of punks freeing the detainees from an ICE detention center in 2035. I have a bunch of free bookmarks if anyone wants them to like links to the webcomic, because like half of it's already up for free. And read Hello Darkness, because I got some of that coming out from the book.
I'm Tyrell Cannon again. You can find me at tyrellcannon.com. My next comic is coming out in July from IDW. It's called Operation Iron Coffin. We drop Dracula onto a train full of Nazis and he tears him to pieces.
Yeah!
Fucking awesome. Look for that in July. And you can find me in Artist Alley, table M3.
And I'm Marcus on Nasso. You can find me at marcuson.com, MARKISAN. Patrick apparently is going to kill me. So I did bring...
They're all going to kill you.
I did bring 20 copies of this comic. It's Bible Horns #1. It was a limited edition, drawn by Luke Orton for the cover. If you want a copy, just come up and I'll sign up for you. You can have one.
Ooh, it's going to be worth a lot. He's going to be dead soon.
Batman's going to be worth a lot too for burning them all.
Once again, I'm Don Cardenas. I host the Comics Coffee Metal podcast. You can search comicscoffeemetal.com. It's on YouTube, Spotify, all the podcast places. I'm the book Evie and the Helsings, about the last member of the Van Helsing line who, instead of wanting to be vampire #1, just wants to rock, but she's going to have to do both. The first volume of that coming soon. We just had the Kickstarter successfully funded for the first trade, and waiting for those to hit the country so I can start pumping them out to everybody. But again, I have some flyers here with everyone's information and websites. If you want to come check them out, I'll bring them down there. And once again, thank you so much to my panel for coming on and sharing your stories. For a couple of years, and this is the first year they were foolish enough to let me do it. And I really appreciate it, and hopefully we get to do it again next year. We can do it bigger.